we have quite interesting statements from special envoy of US President Witkoff. He had an interesting conversation with US journalist Tucker Carlson, and during this conversation that I have not yet watched completely, but I'm definitely going to listen to this interview today, and I recommend to our community also to listen to this interview, because Witkoff was quite clear on quite a few topics, and quite informative in his statements. For example, TASS News Agency is reporting that Witkoff called the status of 5 regions of the Russian Federation, these are new regions, a key issue in Ukrainian conflict. So US Presidential Special Envoy Stephen Witkoff said that their main issue in the Ukrainian conflict remains the status of Crimea, the Donetsk and Lugansk People's Republic, and Zaporozhye and Kherson regions. And we have a quote here. First of all, I think their biggest problem in this conflict is their so-called 4 regions, Donbass, Crimea, Luhansk, and there are 2 others. There are Russian-speaking regions. Yes, there were referendums there in which the vast majority of people expressed the desire to be under Russian rule. Yes, I think that is their key issue in the conflict. This is what needs to be resolved first and foremost. And we are having very, very positive talks on this topic. I mean, positive talks on this topic, quite interesting, isn't it? I guess he didn't speak only with the Russian side on this matter, he spoke with the Kyiv regime too. According to him, nobody wants to talk about this topic. It is like an elephant in the room. The elephant in the room is the constitutional issues within Ukraine regarding what they can give up in terms of territory. Russia de facto controls these territories. The question is whether the world will recognize them as a Russian. Will Zelensky be able to survive politically if he recognizes this? This is the central issue of the conflict. The US leader special envoy added, and well, as I said, quite an interesting statement from Witkoff. Obviously, these 5 regions, new regions of the Russian Federation, have to be recognized as a Russian, undoubtedly, and to achieve a ceasefire. By the way, we already know what Russian position is. Russian President Vladimir Putin in 2024, during his meeting with the leadership of Foreign Ministry, laid down a roadmap basically towards a sustainable peace, and he said quite clearly that ground to be created for meaningful negotiations. First of all, Kyiv regime has to withdraw its forces from new Russian regions, in this particular case from Kherson region, Zaporozhye region, DPR, Donetsk People's Republic, and LPR. These territories have to be recognized as a Russian, and there are few more conditions have to be met, and that will create good enough ground for meaningful talks about peace to begun. And obviously, Russian side is not interested in some temporary solutions. Russian side is interested in a complete resolution for this conflict, which will mean that the root causes of the crisis have to be addressed, including NATO expansion, including new security architecture in Europe and in the world. This is a big, complex issue, right? But to start talk and negotiations, obviously, this situation with these new Russian regions has to be resolved once and for all. And it is good that Witkoff is highlighting this topic, because I don't remember any other high-ranking official from US or from the collective West on this very crucial matter. And it's not just to Witkoff, by the way. Trump himself also start talk about this topic. This is some new developments, because this, as Witkoff said, this topic was kind of taboo in the West, and no one did spoke about it. But now President of US is talking on this matter. Witkoff himself is talking on this matter. So some changes are happening, actually. So talks on dividing territory between Moscow and Kiev is ongoing, according to Trump. negotiations about the terms of dividing up the lands between Moscow and Kiev are in the full swing. US President Donald Trump has stated it's being negotiated as we speak. The president told journalists on Friday, referring to a possible solution to both sides' territorial demands. Four former Ukrainian territories, Kherson and Zaporozhye regions, as well as the two Donbas republics, officially joined Russia in autumn 2022 following a series of referendums. But Kiev is not recognizing these referendums, as collective West does not. Trump did not provide any details about the ongoing negotiations. He just said that he had very good discussions with the Russian President Vladimir Putin and Ukraine's Vladimir Zelensky. Added that we have the confines of the deal. He also said that the two sides were going to have ceasefire on a lot of areas following by a full ceasefire. So okay, if US which is not a mediator, by the way, as I already said many times before, US is a side in this conflict, but if US leadership is determined to pull out US from this proxy war and to do so, and also save the face if they want to, play some positive role now to achieve this ceasefire. Okay, we don't have an issue with that, I guess, and it is good that some key topics being discussed on this high level. Also, by the way, to go back to this interview that Witkoff had with Tucker Carlson, he stated that Tucker Carlson asked him basically about yet another Russia hoax that is quite a wild spread in the West, that after Ukraine, Russia gonna march on Europe. And he asked Witkoff if he really thinks this is the case, and he said 100% no, right? So the US presidential special envoy Steve Witkoff is 100% sure that Russia is not going to attack Europe. He said this in an interview with US journalist Tucker Carlson. Witkoff noted that he finds the claims that Russians are going to march across Europe odd. I think that's preposterous. By the way, we have something called NATO that we did not have in World War II, said Witkoff. That's quite a bad comparison, because during the World War II, last time I checked, we were allies. Soviet Union, or Russia, US, and a number of other countries, we were allies. So this analogy is a wrong one, right? But anyways, it is good that high-ranking officials from US at least are saying that this is all nonsense, by the way, and the hoax that Russians gonna march on Europe. I mean, why? I mean, there is not even single reason why should anybody here in Russia think to march on Europe, and we don't need that, right? But still, to put fear in their people in the West, especially in Europe nowadays, globalists and their puppets in European governments are day in, day out pushing for this insane narrative that, if they didn't defeat Russia by sacrificing Ukraine and people that live there, then, Russians gonna march on Europe and occupy entire EU. I mean, what the hell, man? Why we need that? We don't. We just don't care, man. If you ask me personally, I would recommend to Russian government to absolutely minimize any connections between Russia and Europe. We don't really need anything from Europe, right? We don't need to cooperate with Europe in any way, shape, or form. Just forget about existence of EU and EU member states, majority of them at least. That would be my recommendation to Russia, because I remind you, dear friends, that EU was our #1 trade partner for Russia for years and years and years. Not the US, not the China, not India, but European Union. And what they did, they destroy all achievements that there was since the collapse of Soviet Union in the relationships between EU member states and Russia. They destroy everything. So therefore, I think European elites, European political class cannot be trusted there. So therefore, it is in the best interest of Russia to minimize any connection, any contacts with Europe whatsoever. Just forget about it. Open your borders for people, for citizens of EU member states that are traditionalists, conservatives, have values that we have. Just open borders for those people. So if they want to migrate to Russia, they can do it. Minimize bureaucracy for that. But when it comes to these European states that are run by psychopaths, right? Puppets of the globalists. I mean, we should minimize any business with them. That's my personal take, and I think majority will agree with me here in Russia, by the way. So this from where this nonsense is coming from, that we're gonna march on Europe. Why? If anything, we want to stay away from Europe as much as possible. That's how it is. And dear friends, I have a video on that statement of Witkoff. Let's listen together.
Send British troops there. Then what is, if I can just say, like, what the hell is going on with European League? Keir Starmer saying we're going to send British troops. Their entire military is smaller than the U.S. Marine Corps. The country is dying economically. All those countries are dying economically. Like, what are they thinking? What is that? Is that a posture? Is it a pose?
Well, I think it's a combination of a posture and a pose, and a combination of also being simplistic. I think there's this, this sort of notion of we've all got to be like Winston Churchill.
Yeah.
The Russians are going to march across Europe. I think that's preposterous, by the way. We have something called NATO that we did not have in World War II.
Do you think the Russians want to march across Europe?
100% not. I think
right. I mean, like, why would they want that? I wouldn't want those countries. Like, why would
Exactly.
First of all, why would they want to absorb Ukraine? For what purpose?
Exactly.
They don't need to absorb Ukraine. That would be like occupying Gaza. Why do the Israelis really want to occupy Gaza for the rest of their lives? They don't. They want stability there. They don't want to deal with that. But the Russians also have what they want. They've reclaimed these 5 regions. They have Crimea. And they've gotten what they want. So why do they need more? He said, Putin's a very smart guy. Someone said to me that I was talking to someone in the administration, and they said, well, you got to watch it because he's an ex-KGB guy. So I said, okay, what's the inference? Well, he's an ex-KGB guy. He could be looking to manipulate you.
Says the ex-CIA guy to you. Sorry.
This was not an ex-CIA guy.
Well, they all are.
But effectively. And I said, look, here's how I see it. In the old days, the only people who went into the KGB were the smartest people in the nation. That's who went into the KGB. He's a super smart guy, okay? You don't want to give him the credit for it. That's okay. I give him the credit
They
for
must
it.
hate you for saying stuff like that.
But he is.
I know.
I mean,
I'm very aware.
So should we ignore it? I mean, and this is what I talk about with level setting the facts.
Yes, so as I said, this interview definitely worth to pay attention to, because once again, I mean, Tucker Carlson also said, why would they want to march on Europe? For what purpose, for God's sake? Which is absolutely correct. And in regards to statements of Witkoff that Russia got what Russia wanted, these 5 regions. Well, you know what? I'm quite sure justice to be served. Once some agreement will be placed to stop military phase of their hostilities, I think it will be necessary, and hopefully Russian leadership will make such demands that referendums will take place in Kharkov region, in the Dnipropetrovsk region, Nikolaev region, Odessa region, Poltava region, Sumy, Chernigov region, all across their Kiev-controlled territory, right? To give the people, locals, opportunity to have a say about their own future. Do they want to be part of this nonsensical creation of the Bolsheviks on the name of Ukraine, or do they want historical justice to be served and to become Russian citizens, as their ancestors were, by the way, before a revolution happened, revolution of those Bolsheviks? Grandfathers and grandmothers of the people that are live there, they were Russians, right? Russian citizens, and those territories were Russian territories, correct? And I'm quite sure that in Kharkov region, Dnipropetrovsk, Nikolaev, Odessa, potentially in Poltava, Sumy, Chernihiv regions, answer of the people will be yes to join Russia. And if so, appropriate decisions have to be made in that case. I'm not saying that in the Western parts of the so-called Ukraine, answer gonna be yes to join Russia. No, definitely not. And therefore, voice of those people in the Western Ukraine also should be heard and their choice respected. If they want to stay as a Ukraine, okay. Maybe they want to join, I don't know, Poland or Hungary or Romania. Let them make decisions about their own future. It will be justified, correct? So yes, I'm quite sure once this conflict will end, as I said many times before, one way or another, but entire northern, central, southern regions of this so-called Ukraine, from Kharkov to Odessa, will join Russian Federation eventually, after these referendums will take place. And Western Ukraine, in my personal opinion, even if locals will be against it, but Western Ukraine most likely will be occupied by NATO, NATO member states like Poland, Hungary, Romania, because they have some, openly they might not saying it like that, but of course they have some claims on those territories, because before Second World War and First World War, in case of Hungary, that western parts of Ukraine used to be their territories, and for centuries, by the way, right? So I don't know if NATO member states will respect voice of people that live in Western Ukraine, but Russia will definitely honor voice of people that are living in the rest of the territory of Ukraine, and if they will choose to join Russia, I'm quite sure Russian society and Russian Federation will open door for that, right? So nothing is finished yet, and Kiev and surrounding couple of regions may stay on the political map as a Ukraine, landlocked state, Ukraine on such name, but yet again, only strictly in the Russian sphere of influence. So no NATO, no EU, no nothing of the globalists or from the globalists there, right? That's my take on the situation, but right now, some meaningful talks to be done. Obviously, it is absolutely necessary that Russian regions where Kiev regime still has their forces should be completely freed and liberated. So therefore, obviously, Kiev regime has to withdraw forces from Kherson region, Zaporozhye region, DPR, and from two settlements that they still control in LPR. It is, I believe, 2, maybe 3 settlements left in LPR, and that's about it. 98% of the region is already been liberated. Hello everyone, if you find this video interesting and useful, please click that like button, leave some commentary and share with your friends. If you like my work and want to support this project, you can do it through several means. All the links are on this video in the description box and in the pinned comment, including links to my Patreon and Boosty pages, where you can have access to full shows in case you are interested. Thank you.